Dog brutally abused by owner. But what the neighbor did next left everyone speechless. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the manicured lawns of Maplewood Drive. A peaceful serenity settled over the suburban neighborhood, the air filled with the chirping of crickets and the distant hum of traffic. Behind the neatly trimmed hedges and freshly painted shutters of number 26, however, a different story unfolded. Buddy, a golden retriever with a heart as pure as his namesake, cowered in the corner of the dimly lit living room. His tail, usually wagging with boundless enthusiasm, was tucked between his legs, his ears flattened against his head. His eyes, normally sparkling with playful joy, were filled with a deep sadness, a reflection of the turmoil that plagued his existence. Mr. Thompson, his owner, paced the room like a caged predator, his face contorted in a mask of anger. The stench of alcohol hung heavy in the air, mingling with the stale scent of cigarette smoke and neglected chores. Buddy, his senses heightened by fear, braced himself for the inevitable outburst. "You stupid mutt!" Mr. Thompson's voice boomed through the room, shattering the fragile silence. "You worthless, good-for-nothing fleabag!" Buddy whimpered, his body trembling, his instincts urging him to flee, to seek refuge from the storm of his owner's rage. But there was nowhere to go, no escape from the confines of this house, this prison disguised as a home. Mr. Thompson lunged towards Buddy, his hand raised, his voice escalating into a torrent of abuse. Buddy cowered further into the corner, his eyes squeezed shut, his body bracing for the impact. The blow landed with a sickening thud, sending Buddy sprawling across the floor. He yelped in pain, his body racked with sobs, his spirit crushed beneath the weight of his owner's cruelty. Mr. Thompson, his anger momentarily satiated, stumbled towards the kitchen, leaving Buddy whimpering in the shadows. The dog, his body aching, his heart shattered, lay curled in a ball, his whimpers echoing through the silent house. Next door, at number 28, Sarah, a young woman with a heart as big as the Texas sky, sat on her porch enjoying the cool evening breeze. She had recently moved to Maplewood Drive, seeking a peaceful escape from the hustle and bustle of city life. But the tranquility of her new surroundings was often shattered by the sounds of distress emanating from her neighbor's house. She had seen glimpses of Buddy, his golden fur matted and unkempt, his eyes filled with a sadness that tugged at her heartstrings. She had heard the shouts, the crashes, the whimpers that pierced the quiet evenings. Her concern for the dog grew with each passing day, her sense of responsibility to intervene battling with her reluctance to intrude on her neighbor's privacy. But tonight, the sounds were different, more intense, more disturbing. She had heard the thud of a blow, the yelp of pain, the heart-wrenching sobs that echoed through the stillness of the night. She couldn't ignore it any longer. She had to do something. With a deep breath and a surge of determination, Sarah rose from her chair and walked towards the fence that separated her property from Mr. Thompson's. She peered through the gaps in the wooden slats, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and compassion. What she saw confirmed her worst fears. Buddy lay curled in a ball on the living room floor, his body trembling, his whimpers echoing through the open window. Mr. Thompson, his face flushed with anger, paced the room, his voice a torrent of abuse. Sarah's resolve solidified. She couldn't stand by and watch this innocent creature suffer any longer. She would find a way to help Buddy, even if it meant confronting her volatile neighbor. She would be his voice, his protector, his beacon of hope in the darkness. Buddy lay curled in a ball, his body aching, his spirit wounded. The darkness of the living room mirrored the darkness that had enveloped his existence. He was trapped in a world of fear and pain, his once playful spirit dimmed by the constant threat of his owner's unpredictable rage. He longed for the days when Mr. Thompson had been kind, when his touch had been gentle, when his voice had held a hint of affection. He remembered the joy of their early days together, the playful walks in the park, the shared naps on the sofa, the comforting presence of a human companion. But those days were a distant memory, replaced by a harsh reality of neglect and abuse. Mr. Thompson, once a source of comfort and companionship, had become a source of terror, his moods shifting like the wind, his anger erupting without warning. Buddy, his canine instincts urging him to please, tried desperately to understand his owner's erratic behavior. He would wag his tail, hoping to appease him, his eyes pleading for a return to the kindness he once knew. He would offer his paw, seeking a reassuring touch, a sign that he was still loved, still valued. But his efforts were often met with indifference or worse, a fresh wave of abuse. Mr. Thompson would swat his paw away, his voice laced with contempt. "Get away from me, you stupid mutt!" he would snarl, his words piercing Buddy's heart like daggers. Buddy, his spirit crushed, would retreat to his corner, his whimpers muffled by the fear that consumed him. He longed for an escape, a way out of this nightmare, but he was trapped, bound by his loyalty, his innate desire to please the human who had become his tormentor. He would watch through the window as other dogs strolled by with their owners, their tails wagging, their eyes sparkling with joy. He would hear their playful barks, their happy yelps, their carefree interactions with their human companions. A pang of longing would pierce his heart, a yearning for the companionship and affection he so desperately craved. He would try to communicate his distress, his silent pleas for help masked by a facade of obedience. He would cower when Mr. Thompson approached, his tail tucked between his legs, his body trembling with fear. But his owner, blinded by his own anger and frustration, saw only defiance, only a refusal to submit to his authority. Buddy's spirit, though wounded, remained unbroken. He clung to the faint hope that one day things would change, that the kindness he once knew would return. He would endure the pain, the neglect, the loneliness, fueled by the unwavering belief that somewhere, somehow, there was a light at the end of this dark tunnel. Meanwhile, Sarah, her heart heavy with concern for Buddy, wrestled with her conscience. She couldn't ignore the cries of distress, the sounds of abuse that echoed through the quiet evenings. She felt a growing sense of responsibility to intervene, to protect the innocent creature trapped next door. She had tried subtle approaches, offering friendly smiles and casual conversations with Mr. Thompson, hoping to gauge his character, to assess the situation. But her attempts were met with gruff responses and a dismissive demeanor. She realized that a more direct approach was needed, a decisive action to break the cycle of abuse. She began documenting the incidents, noting the dates, the times, the sounds of violence that pierced the peaceful facade of Maplewood Drive. She took photographs of Buddy, capturing his downcast eyes, his matted fur, his timid demeanor, each image a testament to his suffering. She researched animal welfare organizations, seeking guidance and support. She learned about the legal implications of animal abuse, the resources available to victims, the power of community action to protect vulnerable creatures. Her resolve solidified. She would not stand by and watch Buddy suffer in silence. She would be his voice, his advocate, his champion in a world that had turned a blind eye to his plight. She would find a way to help him, even if it meant confronting her volatile neighbor, even if it meant risking her own safety. And as the shadows deepened over Maplewood Drive, Sarah's determination grew, her heart filled with a fierce protectiveness for the gentle golden retriever trapped in a world of darkness. She would be his beacon of hope, his lifeline, his path towards a brighter future. The tension at number 26 reached a fever pitch one stormy evening. The wind howled like a banshee, rain lashed against the windows, and thunder rattled the very foundations of the house. Inside, Mr. Thompson, fueled by alcohol and a simmering rage, paced the living room like a caged tiger. Buddy, his senses heightened by the storm and his owner's erratic behavior, cowered under the coffee table, his body trembling, his whimpers swallowed by the cacophony of the elements. He had learned to anticipate these outbursts, to recognize the subtle signs of his owner's escalating anger, the clenched fists, the slurred words, the menacing glint in his eyes. "You useless mutt," Mr. Thompson's voice boomed through the room, his words punctuated by the crashing thunder. "You're the reason my life is a mess. You're nothing but a burden, a constant reminder of my failures." Buddy whimpered, his tail tucked between his legs, his eyes pleading for mercy. He didn't understand the words, but he understood the tone, the venom that dripped from each syllable. He longed to comfort his owner, to offer the unconditional love that flowed through his canine heart, but he knew that any approach would only fuel the flames of his rage. Mr. Thompson, his anger reaching a boiling point, grabbed a nearby magazine, rolling it into a tight cylinder. "You think you can just lie there, doing nothing, expecting me to wait on you hand and foot?" He snarled, his voice thick with fury. "You're worthless, useless." He lunged towards Buddy, the rolled-up magazine a weapon in his hand. Buddy, his instincts screaming at him to flee, scrambled out from under the coffee table, his movements clumsy and desperate. The blows rained down upon him, each strike accompanied by a fresh wave of verbal abuse. Buddy yelped in pain, his body twisting and turning to avoid the onslaught, his cries swallowed by the raging storm. Sarah, her senses heightened by the storm and the escalating commotion next door, peered out her window, her heart pounding with dread. She had witnessed Mr. Thompson's outbursts before, but never with such intensity, such uncontrolled rage. She saw Buddy cowering, his body flinching with each blow, his cries piercing the storm's cacophony. She couldn't bear to watch any longer. She had to act, to intervene, to protect the innocent creature suffering at the hands of his tormentor. Without hesitation, she grabbed her phone and dialed 911, her voice trembling as she reported the situation. "My neighbor is abusing his dog," she said, her words punctuated by the sounds of violence echoing through the phone. "Please, you have to come quickly." As she waited for the police to arrive, she paced her living room, her anxiety growing with each passing minute. She peered out the window, her gaze fixed on the house next door, her heart aching for Buddy, her mind filled with images of his suffering. The arrival of the police car brought a sense of relief, a beacon of hope in the stormy darkness. Officer Miller, a tall, broad-shouldered man with a kind face and gentle eyes, emerged from the vehicle, his presence radiating authority and compassion. Sarah rushed out to meet him, her voice filled with urgency. "Thank you for coming, officer," she said, her words tumbling over each other. "He's hurting his dog. I can hear him." Officer Miller, his expression hardening with determination, followed Sarah towards Mr. Thompson's house. He knocked firmly on the door, his voice commanding as he announced his presence. "Mr. Thompson, this is the police. Open the door." The sounds of violence ceased abruptly. A tense silence hung in the air, broken only by the pounding rain and the distant rumble of thunder. Then, the door creaked open, revealing Mr. Thompson, his face flushed, his eyes bloodshot, his clothes disheveled. "What's all this about?" he slurred, his voice thick with alcohol and defiance. Officer Miller, his gaze unwavering, stepped past Mr. Thompson, his eyes scanning the living room. He saw Buddy cowering in the corner, his fur matted with blood, his body trembling with fear. The sight confirmed Sarah's report, the evidence of abuse undeniable. "Mr. Thompson," Officer Miller said, his voice firm and authoritative, "I'm here to investigate a report of animal abuse. I need to see your dog." Mr. Thompson, his defiance melting into a mixture of fear and confusion, stammered, "He's just a dog. I can do what I want with him." Officer Miller's expression hardened. "No, Mr. Thompson," he said, his voice laced with steel. "You cannot. Animal abuse is a crime, and I'm here to ensure this dog's safety." He approached Buddy, his movements gentle and reassuring. The dog, his eyes filled with a mix of fear and hope, whimpered softly, his tail giving a tentative wag. Officer Miller knelt down, his hand reaching out to gently stroke Buddy's fur. The dog, starved for affection, leaned into the touch, his whimpers subsiding into soft whimpers of relief. "It's okay," "Boy," Officer Miller whispered, his voice soothing. "You're safe now." He looked up at Mr. Thompson, his gaze unwavering. "Mr. Thompson," he said, his voice firm, "I'm taking this dog into protective custody. You're not to go near him again." Mr. Thompson, his face pale with shock and anger, sputtered in protest. But Officer Miller, his authority unquestionable, ignored his objections. He gently lifted Buddy into his arms, the dog's weight a comforting burden, his whimpers now replaced by soft sighs of contentment. As Officer Miller carried Buddy out of the house, Sarah watched from the doorway, her heart filled with a mix of relief and gratitude. She had done what she could. Her voice had been heard. Her actions had made a difference. Buddy, the gentle golden retriever, was finally free from his tormentor. His journey towards healing and hope about to begin. The rain continued to fall, washing away the remnants of a dark night, as Officer Miller carried Buddy towards his patrol car. The dog, his body trembling with a mix of fear and exhaustion, rested his head against the officer's strong shoulder, his whimpers fading into soft sighs of relief. Sarah followed closely behind, her heart filled with a mix of gratitude and concern. She watched as Officer Miller gently placed Buddy in the back seat of the car, his movements reassuring, his voice soothing. "You're safe now, Buddy," he said, his words a balm to the dog's wounded spirit. "We're going to take you somewhere you'll be cared for, loved." Buddy, his eyes filled with a mix of confusion and hope, watched as Officer Miller closed the car door, his presence a beacon of safety in a world that had become synonymous with fear and pain. Sarah approached the officer, her voice filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Officer Miller," she said, her words heartfelt. "You don't know how much this means to me. I've been so worried about that poor dog." Officer Miller nodded, his expression serious. "It's clear he's been through a lot," he said, his voice laced with compassion. "But we're going to make sure he gets the help he needs." He explained that he would be taking Buddy to the local animal shelter, a safe haven where he would receive medical attention and a temporary home. He assured Sarah that he would investigate the situation further, gather evidence, and take appropriate action against Mr. Thompson. Sarah, her heart filled with a mix of relief and determination, thanked Officer Miller again and watched as he drove away, Buddy's silhouette visible through the rain-streaked window. She knew that her actions had made a difference, that she had been a voice for the voiceless, a protector of the innocent. But her work wasn't done yet. She returned to her house, her mind racing with thoughts of Buddy, her heart heavy with the knowledge of his suffering. She couldn't simply leave it at that. She had to do more, to ensure that Buddy never endured such cruelty again. She spent the rest of the evening gathering evidence, documenting the incidents of abuse she had witnessed, the sounds she had heard, the glimpses of Buddy's injuries. She compiled photographs, dates, and detailed descriptions, creating a timeline of neglect and cruelty. The next morning, armed with her documentation, she returned to the police station, her resolve strengthened by a sleepless night. She requested to speak with Officer Miller, her voice firm and determined. Officer Miller, his respect for Sarah's compassion evident in his welcoming smile, listened intently as she presented her evidence. He reviewed her notes, examined the photographs, his expression hardening with each detail. "This is worse than I initially thought," he said, his voice grave. "We need to take action against Mr. Thompson. This kind of abuse cannot be tolerated." He assured Sarah that he would pursue the case with diligence, gather witness statements, and consult with the district attorney to ensure that Mr. Thompson faced the full consequences of his actions. Sarah, her heart filled with gratitude for Officer Miller's dedication, left the police station with a renewed sense of hope. She knew that the wheels of justice were in motion, that Buddy's abuser would be held accountable. She couldn't wait to visit Buddy at the shelter, to see for herself that he was safe, that he was receiving the care and compassion he deserved. She knew that her journey with Buddy was far from over, that she would continue to be his advocate, his protector, his beacon of hope in a world that had often been cruel and unforgiving. And as she walked towards the animal shelter, her heart filled with a mix of determination and tenderness. She knew that she had found a purpose, a calling to be a voice for the voiceless, a champion for those who could not speak for themselves. Officer Miller, armed with Sarah's compelling evidence and his own growing concern, wasted no time in pursuing the case against Mr. Thompson. He revisited the Thompson residence, this time with a warrant in hand and a determination to ensure Buddy's safety. He knocked firmly on the door, his uniformed presence casting a shadow over the once peaceful facade of the suburban home. Mr. Thompson, his face etched with a mix of confusion and annoyance, answered the door, his bloodshot eyes betraying a night of restless sleep and lingering intoxication. "Officer Miller," he slurred, his voice thick with a mixture of defiance and apprehension. "What's this about? I thought we settled this last night." "Mr. Thompson," Officer Miller stated firmly, his voice brooking no argument, "I'm here to inform you that we've received a report of ongoing animal abuse at this residence. I have a warrant to inspect your property and ensure the well-being of the animal in question." Mr. Thompson's face paled, his defiance momentarily faltering. He attempted a protest, mumbling about his rights and the privacy of his home, but Officer Miller's unwavering gaze silenced his objections. "Mr. Thompson," Officer Miller interrupted, his voice laced with steel, "animal abuse is a serious offense. I urge you to cooperate fully with this investigation." He stepped past Mr. Thompson, his eyes scanning the dimly lit interior. The stench of stale alcohol and neglect hung heavy in the air, a testament to the unhealthy environment Buddy had endured. Officer Miller's gaze fell upon a huddled figure in the corner of the living room. It was Buddy, his golden fur matted and dull, his eyes filled with a deep sadness. The sight of the once vibrant dog, now reduced to a trembling shadow of his former self, fueled Officer Miller's determination to bring justice to this innocent creature. "Mr. Thompson," Officer Miller's voice echoed through the tense silence, "your dog's condition is unacceptable. He shows clear signs of neglect and physical abuse. I'm taking him into protective custody." Mr. Thompson, his face contorted with a mix of anger and fear, lunged towards Officer Miller, his voice rising in protest. "You can't take my dog. He's mine. I'll do what I want with him." Officer Miller, his reflexes honed by years of experience, swiftly restrained Mr. Thompson, his voice firm and unwavering. "Mr. Thompson, you are obstructing a police investigation and hindering the rescue of an abused animal. I urge you to cooperate, or you will face further charges." Mr. Thompson, his struggles proving futile against the officer's strength, slumped to the floor, his anger replaced by a defeated resignation. Officer Miller, his gaze fixed on the cowering dog, approached Buddy with gentle steps, his voice soothing and reassuring. "It's okay, Buddy," he whispered, his hand reaching out to gently stroke the dog's trembling fur. "You're safe now. No one will hurt you again." Buddy, his eyes filled with a mix of fear and hope, tentatively licked Officer Miller's hand, his tail giving a hesitant wag. He sensed the shift in power, the arrival of a protector, a beacon of safety in a world that had been filled with darkness. Officer Miller carefully lifted Buddy into his arms, the dog's weight a comforting burden, his whimpers now replaced by soft sighs of relief. He carried Buddy out of the house, past the defeated figure of Mr. Thompson, and into the waiting patrol car. As they drove away from Maplewood Drive, Buddy gazed out the window, his eyes taking in the unfamiliar sights, his ears perked at the new sounds. He felt a sense of liberation, a release from the confines of his abusive home, a glimmer of hope for a brighter future. Officer Miller, his heart filled with compassion for the rescued dog, glanced at Buddy in the rearview mirror, his expression softening. "Don't worry, Buddy," he said, his voice kind and reassuring. "You're going to a place where you'll be loved, cared for. You're going to get a second chance." Buddy, his tail wagging tentatively, rested his head against the seat, his eyes closing as a wave of exhaustion and relief washed over him. He was leaving behind a life of fear and pain, embarking on a journey towards healing and hope, guided by the kindness of strangers and the unwavering dedication of those who refused to let him suffer in silence. The animal shelter was a haven of bustling activity, a symphony of barks, meows, and the comforting murmur of human voices. Buddy, his senses overwhelmed by the unfamiliar sights and sounds, clung to Officer Miller's side, his tail tucked between his legs, his eyes wide with apprehension. Officer Miller, sensing Buddy's anxiety, spoke to him in soothing tones, his hand gently stroking the dog's fur. "It's okay, Buddy," he reassured him. "You're safe here. No one will hurt you." He led Buddy through the bustling hallways, past rows of kennels housing dogs and cats of all shapes and sizes. The animals, their curiosity piqued by the newcomer, greeted Buddy with a chorus of barks and meows, their tails wagging in welcome. Officer Miller introduced Buddy to the shelter staff, a dedicated team of individuals committed to the welfare of their furry residents. They welcomed Buddy with warm smiles and gentle touches, their compassion evident in their every interaction. "He's a beautiful dog," one of the staff members commented, her voice filled with kindness. "We'll take good care of him." Buddy was led to a spacious kennel, equipped with a soft bed, fresh water, and a colorful assortment of toys. He hesitantly entered the enclosure, his eyes scanning the unfamiliar surroundings, his tail giving a tentative wag. A veterinarian, Dr. Emily Davis, was called in to examine Buddy. She was a woman with a gentle touch and a warm smile, her presence radiating compassion and expertise. She knelt beside Buddy, her voice soft and reassuring as she examined his injuries. "He's got some bruises and a few cuts," she observed, her voice laced with concern. "But nothing too serious. He's a strong dog. He'll heal quickly." She administered pain medication and antibiotics, her touch gentle, her movements efficient. Buddy, his initial apprehension fading, leaned into her touch, his eyes closing as a wave of relief washed over him. Dr. Davis, her examination complete, smiled at Buddy. "You're going to be just fine," she assured him. "You're in good hands now." Buddy, his body relaxing, his spirit lifting, felt a glimmer of hope ignite within him. He was surrounded by kindness, by people who cared for his well-being, who saw beyond his injuries, who recognized the gentle soul beneath his battered exterior. The days that followed were a blur of new experiences. Buddy was introduced to the other dogs, his initial shyness giving way to playful interactions and joyful chases in the shelter's spacious yard. He learned to trust the staff, their gentle touch and soothing voices a balm to his wounded spirit. He discovered the joy of toys, his playful instincts re-emerging as he chased tennis balls, tugged on ropes, and wrestled with his newfound canine companions. He rediscovered the simple pleasures of walks, his tail wagging with renewed enthusiasm as he explored the surrounding neighborhood with the shelter volunteers. Sarah, true to her word, became a regular visitor at the shelter. She would arrive with treats and toys, her presence a beacon of warmth and affection. She would sit with Buddy in his kennel, her voice soft and soothing as she recounted stories of her day, her gentle touch reassuring him of her unwavering support. Buddy, his bond with Sarah deepening with each visit, would greet her with enthusiastic tail wags and joyful barks, his eyes sparkling with gratitude and affection. He found in Sarah a kindred spirit, a human who saw beyond his past, who recognized the gentle soul within, who offered him the unconditional love he so desperately craved. As the weeks passed, Buddy's physical wounds healed, his fur regaining its luster, his eyes regaining their sparkle. But the emotional scars lingered, a reminder of the trauma he had endured. Dr. Davis, recognizing Buddy's need for specialized care, introduced him to a canine therapist, a specialist in helping animals overcome traumatic experiences. Through gentle exercises, positive reinforcement, and a patient understanding of Buddy's emotional state, the therapist helped him rebuild his trust in humans. his confidence slowly returning with each session. Buddy's transformation was remarkable. His playful spirit re-emerged, his tail wagging with renewed enthusiasm, his eyes shining with a newfound joy. He had found a safe haven, a place where he was loved, cared for, and cherished. But the question of his future remained unanswered. Would he find a forever home, a family to call his own, a place where he could finally experience the unconditional love and security he deserved? Sarah, her heart filled with a growing affection for Buddy, contemplated the possibility of fostering him, of offering him a temporary home, a stepping stone towards a brighter future. She knew that taking on a dog with a traumatic past would be challenging, but she also recognized the profound impact she could have on his life, the healing power of love and compassion. And as she watched Buddy play in the shelter yard, his golden fur gleaming in the sunlight, his tail wagging with abandon, she knew that she couldn't bear the thought of him remaining in a kennel, his future uncertain. She would take a leap of faith, open her heart and her home, and offer Buddy the second chance he so desperately deserved. The paperwork for fostering Buddy was surprisingly straightforward. The shelter staff, eager to see him thrive in a loving home environment, expedited the process, their hearts filled with hope for the gentle golden retriever. Sarah, her excitement growing with each passing day, prepared her home for Buddy's arrival, her heart filled with a mix of anticipation and determination. She purchased a cozy dog bed, a colorful assortment of toys, and a sturdy leash for their walks. She rearranged her furniture, creating a safe and comfortable space for Buddy to explore and relax. She stocked up on dog food, treats, and grooming supplies, her every action a testament to her commitment to providing Buddy with the best possible care. The day Buddy arrived at her doorstep was filled with a mix of emotions. He stepped tentatively into her home, his tail wagging hesitantly, his eyes scanning the unfamiliar surroundings. Sarah, her heart filled with warmth and compassion, knelt down and spoke to him in soothing tones, her hand gently stroking his fur. "Welcome home, Buddy," she said, her voice filled with affection. "This is your new home now. You're safe here." Buddy, his initial apprehension fading, leaned into her touch, his tail wagging with increasing enthusiasm. He explored the house with cautious curiosity, his nose twitching at the new scents, his ears perked at the unfamiliar sounds. Sarah, her eyes following his every move, watched with a mixture of amusement and tenderness. She showed him his new bed, his toys, and the backyard where he could run and play to his heart's content. Buddy, his playful instincts re-emerging, chased after tennis balls, rolled in the grass, and explored every corner of his new domain. His tail wagged with abandon, his barks filled with a newfound joy, his eyes sparkling with gratitude and affection. The first few days were an adjustment period, a dance of learning and understanding. Sarah, patient and observant, learned to read Buddy's subtle cues, his body language revealing his anxieties and insecurities. She reassured him with gentle touches, soothing words, and a consistent routine that provided him with a sense of stability and predictability. She took him for walks in the park, his leash a symbol of freedom rather than restraint. She introduced him to her friends and neighbors, their kind words and gentle pats reinforcing his trust in humans. She played with him in the backyard, their laughter echoing through the quiet neighborhood, a testament to the healing power of companionship. Buddy, his heart slowly mending, responded to Sarah's love with an outpouring of affection. He followed her everywhere, his presence a constant source of comfort and companionship. He snuggled beside her on the sofa, his head resting on her lap, his soft snores a lullaby in the quiet evenings. He greeted her at the door with enthusiastic barks and tail wags, his joy at her return a testament to the deep bond they had formed. He learned to trust her implicitly, his fear and anxiety fading with each passing day, replaced by a sense of security and belonging. Sarah, her heart filled with a love she had never known, marveled at Buddy's transformation. She witnessed the playful spirit re-emerge, the spark of joy reignite in his eyes, the unconditional love that flowed from his gentle heart. She knew that she had made the right decision, that fostering Buddy had not only changed his life but had also enriched her own. She had found a companion, a confidant, a furry soulmate who filled her days with laughter, warmth, and a renewed appreciation for the simple joys of life. And as she watched Buddy chase butterflies in the backyard, his golden fur gleaming in the sunlight, his tail wagging with abandon, she knew that their journey together had just begun, a journey of healing, companionship, and the enduring power of love to transform even the most wounded of hearts. While Buddy was blossoming in his new life with Sarah, the wheels of justice were slowly turning in the case against Mr. Thompson. Officer Miller, dedicated to his duty and fueled by a sense of responsibility towards Buddy, diligently pursued the investigation. He interviewed neighbors, gathering witness testimonies that corroborated Sarah's account of Mr. Thompson's abusive behavior. He collected veterinary records, documenting Buddy's injuries and the pattern of neglect. He even consulted with animal behavior experts, their insights shedding light on the psychological impact of abuse on animals. The evidence against Mr. Thompson mounted, painting a grim picture of a man consumed by anger and frustration, taking out his frustrations on a defenseless creature. Officer Miller, his resolve strengthened by the overwhelming evidence, prepared to present his case to the district attorney. The legal proceedings were a stark contrast to the peaceful atmosphere of Sarah's home. The courtroom, with its imposing judge and stern-faced lawyers, was a world of legalities and procedures, a far cry from the warmth and compassion that surrounded Buddy's new life. Sarah, summoned as a key witness, recounted her observations of Mr. Thompson's abusive behavior, her voice trembling at times as she recalled the sounds of Buddy's suffering. Her testimony, heartfelt and compelling, painted a vivid picture of the dog's plight, leaving no doubt in the minds of the jury about the cruelty he had endured. Dr. Davis, her expertise lending weight to the case, testified about Buddy's physical and emotional injuries, her words echoing through the courtroom, a testament to the devastating impact of animal abuse. Mr. Thompson, his face pale and drawn, sat hunched in the defendant's chair, his gaze averted, his defiance replaced by a palpable sense of guilt and regret. His lawyer attempted a defense, painting a picture of a troubled man struggling with personal demons, but the evidence against him was overwhelming. The jury's verdict was swift and decisive, guilty on all counts of animal cruelty. The judge, his voice stern and resolute, sentenced Mr. Thompson to a combination of fines, community service, and mandatory counseling, his words echoing the community's outrage and the court's commitment to protecting vulnerable animals. News of the verdict spread through Maplewood Drive, bringing a sense of justice and closure. Neighbors, once hesitant to intervene, expressed their relief and gratitude towards Sarah and Officer Miller, their voices united in condemnation of Mr. Thompson's actions. Sarah, her heart filled with a mix of satisfaction and sadness, reflected on the long journey that had led to this moment. She had faced her fears, spoken up against injustice, and played a crucial role in bringing Buddy's abuser to justice. But her focus remained on Buddy, on ensuring his continued healing and happiness. She knew that the legal proceedings, though necessary, were merely a backdrop to the true story of transformation and redemption that was unfolding in her own home. And as she returned to her cozy living room, where Buddy awaited her with eager anticipation, she knew that the true victory lay not in the courtroom, but in the wagging tail, the trusting eyes, and the unconditional love of the dog she had helped rescue from the shadows. With Mr. Thompson facing the consequences of his actions and Buddy thriving in Sarah's care, a sense of peace settled over Maplewood Drive. The once troubled house next door stood empty, a silent reminder of the darkness that had once cast a shadow over the neighborhood. But in its place, a new story was unfolding, a story of healing, compassion, and the enduring power of love. Buddy, his spirit blossoming under Sarah's unwavering affection, had become a fixture in the community. He was a regular at the local park, his playful antics bringing smiles to the faces of children and adults alike. He accompanied Sarah on her morning jogs, his golden fur gleaming in the sunlight, his tail wagging with boundless enthusiasm. He even became a welcomed guest at the local coffee shop, his gentle presence a calming influence amidst the morning rush. Sarah, her heart overflowing with love for Buddy, realized that their bond had become something truly special. He was more than just a pet. He was her companion, her confidant, her furry soulmate. She had rescued him from a life of misery, but in many ways, he had rescued her too, filling her life with a sense of purpose and unconditional love she had never known. The thought of Buddy ever leaving her side became unbearable. She had initially planned to foster him temporarily, to provide him with a stepping stone towards a permanent home. But as the weeks turned into months, the idea of parting with him grew increasingly painful. One evening, as she sat on the porch with Buddy curled up at her feet, the decision crystallized within her. She would adopt him, make him an official member of her family, give him the forever home he so richly deserved. The next morning, she contacted the shelter, her voice filled with excitement. The staff, overjoyed at the news, expedited the adoption process, their hearts filled with gratitude for Sarah's compassion and Buddy's newfound happiness. The day Buddy officially became hers was a celebration of love and resilience. Sarah organized a small gathering in her backyard, inviting friends, neighbors, and even Officer Miller to share in the joyous occasion. Buddy, adorned with a festive bandana, basked in the attention, his tail wagging with uncontainable enthusiasm. The backyard was filled with laughter, games of fetch, and heartfelt toasts to Buddy's new beginning. Sarah, her eyes brimming with tears of joy, watched as Buddy interacted with her guests, his playful spirit a testament to the transformative power of love and compassion. Officer Miller, his presence a symbol of justice and protection, congratulated Sarah, his voice filled with admiration for her dedication to Buddy's well-being. He had witnessed the darkest depths of animal cruelty, but he had also witnessed the radiant light of human kindness, and it filled him with a renewed sense of hope. As the sun began its descent, casting a golden glow over the gathering, Sarah raised her glass, her voice filled with emotion. "To Buddy," she said, her gaze meeting his, "to your resilience, your spirit, your unwavering love. Welcome home, my sweet boy." Buddy, as if understanding the significance of the moment, barked happily, his tail wagging with joyful abandon. He nuzzled against Sarah's leg, his eyes filled with gratitude and affection, his heart overflowing with the warmth of belonging. The celebration continued late into the evening, the laughter and chatter mingling with the chirping of crickets and the soft glow of fireflies. Buddy, exhausted but content, curled up at Sarah's feet, his soft snores a lullaby in the peaceful night. He had found his forever home, a place where he was loved unconditionally, cherished for who he was, and protected from the shadows of his past. His journey had been one of pain and fear, but it had culminated in a triumph of the spirit, a testament to the enduring power of compassion and the transformative potential of human-animal bonds. Life with Buddy was a symphony of joyful barks, playful chases, and comforting cuddles. Sarah's once quiet home now echoed with the sounds of Buddy's happy presence, his playful antics filling her days with laughter and warmth. Their bond deepened with each passing day, their companionship a testament to the enduring power of love and loyalty. Buddy, his spirit fully restored, became an ambassador of joy in the neighborhood. He was a regular fixture at the local park, his playful energy infectious, his gentle nature a magnet for children and adults alike. He would greet passers-by with enthusiastic tail wags, his friendly demeanor melting away any lingering anxieties or reservations. Sarah, inspired by Buddy's resilience and the transformative power of their bond, decided to share their story with the wider community. She contacted the local newspaper, her voice filled with passion as she recounted Buddy's journey from abuse to recovery. The newspaper, recognizing the heartwarming potential of their story, published a feature article, complete with touching photographs of Sarah and Buddy. The article captured the hearts of readers, sparking a wave of support and admiration for both the resilient dog and the compassionate woman who had given him a second chance. The story caught the attention of local television stations, who invited Sarah and Buddy to appear on their morning shows. Sarah, initially hesitant to step into the spotlight, eventually agreed, recognizing the opportunity to raise awareness about animal abuse and inspire others to take action. Their television appearances were met with an outpouring of support. Viewers were moved by Buddy's story, their hearts touched by his gentle spirit and his unwavering love for Sarah. Donations poured into local animal shelters, adoption rates soared, and a renewed sense of compassion for animals swept through the community. Sarah and Buddy became local celebrities, their story a symbol of hope and resilience. They were invited to participate in community events, their presence bringing smiles and warmth to the faces of those they encountered. Buddy, adorned with his signature bandana, became a mascot for animal welfare, his gentle demeanor a reminder of the power of kindness and compassion. Inspired by the impact of their story, Sarah and Buddy became active volunteers at the local animal shelter. They spent their weekends visiting with the animals, offering comfort and companionship to those awaiting their forever homes. Buddy, with his gentle nature and playful spirit, became a favorite among the shelter residents, his presence a calming influence on the anxious and traumatized animals. Sarah, her passion for animal welfare ignited, organized fundraising events, adoption drives, and educational programs to raise awareness about responsible pet ownership and the importance of speaking up against animal abuse. She became a voice for the voiceless, her dedication fueled by Buddy's unwavering spirit and the transformative power of their bond. Buddy's legacy extended far beyond the confines of Maplewood Drive. His story, a testament to the resilience of the animal spirit and the healing power of human compassion, inspired countless individuals to open their hearts and homes to animals in need. He became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of circumstances, love and kindness could prevail. And as the years passed, and Buddy's once golden fur turned to silver, his legacy continued to shine brightly. He lived a long and happy life, his days filled with love, laughter, and the unwavering companionship of the woman who had rescued him from the shadows. The final scene unfolded on a sunny afternoon in the park, where Sarah and Buddy sat on their favorite bench, watching children play, dogs chase frisbees, and families enjoy the simple pleasures of a beautiful day. Buddy, his eyes sparkling with contentment, rested his head on Sarah's lap, his soft snores a lullaby in the peaceful atmosphere. Sarah, her heart filled with gratitude for the extraordinary journey they had shared, gently stroked Buddy's fur, her voice soft and filled with love. "Thank you, Buddy," she whispered, her words carried on the gentle breeze. "Thank you for showing me the true meaning of companionship, loyalty, and the enduring power of love." Buddy, his tail thumping softly against the ground, nuzzled closer to Sarah, his presence a testament to the transformative power of human-animal bonds, his legacy forever etched in the hearts of those he had touched.